journey, and I hope that you'll come along with me on this journey as we learn together and as we grow together and all the unedited versions of life because it's going to be wonderful. I am here today to just kind of share with you some of the things that are most important to me and what brings me the most joy. And truly, it is people. People. They bring me the most joy. Now, sometimes people can bring a lot of anxiety with them, right? We get a little anxious about what's going on and what people are thinking and what should I say? But really, when we can learn to love and let go of all of the things that go on inside us when we meet people, we can find so much joy. So much joy. Because people bring joy. And we do that and we feel that richness in our lives when we're with people when we can learn to love and when we can learn to forgive. Not only everyone, but forgive and here. When you can be okay with you, when you can be solid with the person that you are on the inside, there is so much joy to be found from the people all around you. And I just want to share a story that has been incredibly impactful for me. So impactful on the way that I see the world and the way that I see people and how I interact with them and why I am the way that I am really now today. It's a story about George. Well, really, it's a story about Wild Bill Cody. Now, first of all, his name wasn't Wild Bill Cody. It was actually like 7 unpronounceable syllables in Polish, but the guys of the 123rd EVAC and the ground troops there named him that because of his handlebar mustache. That made him look like something out of a Western movie. But this is the story of George meeting Wild Bill and all that was taught in that experience. Now, George was a part of the 123rd EVAC that came in May of 1945 after the war in Europe was over. They came in to bring aid, to bring food, to bring medical supplies, and all other needed supplies for these concentration camps. Now, George was a soldier, and he had seen much devastation during the war. He had seen instant death and many, many things, but none of that could prepare him for what he saw when he walked into those camps. It was incredibly sad and painful for him to see. He's like, nothing can prepare you for that. But they went in, they took the needed medical supplies and wanted to help as much as they could. And it broke George's heart to see the deterioration in these people and that some of it was irreversible. And that even though they brought all of these medical supplies and everything that they needed, people were still dying from day to day. But they came across Wild Bill Cody. And Wild Bill was like this light in the camp. He had vitality and strength and build. Now, he was dirty, but there wasn't much deterioration. And he was on the same starvation diet, and he was in the same disease-ridden barracks as everyone else and experiencing the same grueling treatment as everyone else. And so he couldn't have been there long. So they used him because he was fluent in a variety of languages. They used him as like the unofficial camp translator, and they went around finding people, doing the paperwork, all the different things that you can think of that you might need to do during that time. And Wild Bill had so much energy. He literally was working 14, 15, 16-hour days. And George said he just seemed to have more energy. He seemed like the more he did, the more energy he had. And George's men were dropping like flies because of fatigue. And it just was like so incomprehensible to George. And he kept watching him, and he would go from person to person, get to the end of the evening, and Wild Bill would be like, no, we can help this gentleman over here. Or no, we can go to one more. This person really needs us. And Wild Bill was also able to calm people. He was the person that people came to when there were squabbles or when there were things going on in the camp that people couldn't overcome. He was the peacemaker. And George came to find out that this was very unusual because the different nationalities of Jews actually hated each other just as much as they hated the Germans. And Wild Bill was able to bring many people together and help them to get along. Now, all of this went on, and all of a sudden, George came across Wild Bill's paperwork. And he looked at it, and he looked at it, and he couldn't believe it. Wild Bill Cody had been in that concentration camp since 1939, for 6 years. How? How? George couldn't understand it, but they kept working. Now, one day they were sitting down and they were having some tea, and they were talking about how all of the people in the concentration camps were having such an issue with forgiving, because there were so many people so enraged at the Germans that there were some other camps that had been liberated earlier before anyone could get to them, and people were leaving and somehow coming across weapons and going into the nearest city or town and shooting the first German they saw because their hatred was so intense. And this was something else Wild Bill was also able to help the Jews understand, that that was not okay, and to calm all of that down. But they were sitting there drinking tea, and George turned to Wild Bill and said, "It's hard for some of them to forgive, isn't it?" Wild Bill took a sip of tea and leaned back and said some of the first words he had ever uttered about himself since George got there. He said, "My family and I were living in the Jewish part of Warsaw when the Germans came. My wife, my 2 daughters, and my 3 little boys. Now, when the Germans came to our street, they lined everybody up and then opened up with machine gun fire. He said, I begged to die with my family. But because he spoke German, he was put into a work group." He continued with his story, saying, "I knew I had to decide then if I was going to hate the men who did this, the soldiers who did this." The next statement blew George's mind. He said, "It was easy to decide. It was easy." He continued, "I was a lawyer. I was a lawyer and had seen what hate did to the mind and to the body of a person. And I just witnessed what hatred did in taking away the 6 people that mattered the most to me in my life. So I decided that day that I was going to love every person I came into contact with. Didn't matter if I lived for one more day or if I lived many, many years. I would love every person. Every person. Love is what kept Wild Bill from deteriorating. A pure form of love. Love and forgiveness. How incredible is that? Remember, he was on the same disease-ridden barracks, on the same starvation diet, and receiving the same kind of treatment as all of the other people in those concentration camps. Yet for 6 years, there was hardly any deterioration to him, because he chose to love people, and he found energy in loving people. No matter who they were, no matter what they did, what they said, he loved the people. Imagine how powerful that would be in our lives if we could all learn to do the same thing. No matter what people do to us, or what we think they do to us, no matter what we think they think, or experience, or say. What if we loved unconditionally, no matter who they were? What kind of a world would we live in? How incredible would that be? I know it would be incredible for me. Love and forgiveness are the key. And I know we can all experience that. It starts in here and in here. Changing our thought processes to help change our heart and then give back to those around us. It's possible for everyone. It was possible for Wild Bill. It can be possible for you too. So I hope you'll come along on this journey with me. The stories that are going to be shared, the experiences not only from me, but from other people that can inspire and lift and change your life. You'll see a transformation in your life. And it will be unlike anything you've experienced before. Vitality and energy as you learn to love people and to forgive people. I know I've experienced that in my life, and I know that you can in yours. And I hope that you'll continue to follow, and I hope that you'll continue to do this with me, because I am so excited. The changes that I've seen in people, the changes that I've seen in me, I know you can see those in you. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join me for more. Talk to you later, and joyful journey.